thank you so much, guys, for joining in. It's good to see there's a lot of people joining this conversation to learn more about one of the most happening topic in the industry these days, which is trying to get the true ROI and reporting the true ROI to the clients. Now, let me share my screen and we'll jump into the conversation straight away. Okay, are you guys able to see my screen, Sahil?
Yes, we are able to see. Yes.
Okay, so let me move this to my another screen. Okay, cool. So to give you a quick introduction about myself, I've been doing digital marketing since 2006. Back then, I didn't know it was actually digital marketing. I thought I was, trying to Google out for the game cheat codes and all sort of stuff during my college days. And I learned try to optimize Google because we used to get a lot of game cheat codes those days. People used to in my college they used to call it as googly, you know. So such is the level of Google those days. So at that time itself, I was trying to help my dad with his business for setting up his own website and all the other things. So that's when I learned stuff. And throughout my journey, like I mentioned, today is not a Father's Day, by the way. Uh, so people suddenly get pleasure in saying about Happy Father's Day and stuff. So today is not Father's Day, full disclosure. But my dad is my first guru. He ran a printing press. I was supporting him for marketing back in the early days. In my childhood itself, started doing that. He used to take me to his, to various places because of his printing business. He's more into B2B printing. So he used to take me there, and he used to convince a lot of people. The way he delivers things, everything used to be standing out compared to the other presses, and he usually charges a premium for that. But people still prefer to give it to him because of the customer experience, the service that they get. And most of the printing jobs they usually get from the marketing team in the last minute, because the marketing team usually like Henkel and those kind of companies, they approve the designs only in the last minute, and then they have only about 24 hours to print something. And the thing about the printing, whenever there's a multicolor job, it takes a while to get that output. So in spite of all those challenges, he used to deliver things. So that's where I learned most of my stuff from my dad. And the second most important person in my life is Mr. Rand Fishkin. Without him, I would not have got my passion towards SEO. Back in the old days, every the Blackboard Fridays or something which every SEO will look up to, where Rand Fishkin comes in, he explains about a lot of things about SEO. So he's the one who's my guru. And the next important person is Neil Patel. And he obviously, there's no introduction required for Neil. Every single marketer knows about him. So I learned marketing full stack from Neil. And the fourth most important person is Mr. Ryan Serhant. He's a multi-million, billion-dollar sales rep in real estate sales rep back in the US. He has his own vlog in YouTube. I completely follow him. He's a great guy where you can learn sales from him, how to convince people, how to do self-improvement yourself. So there's a lot of things. So these are the four people. The reason why I'm talking about these people is because instead of talking about myself here, is because I'm not a guru, I'm not a thought leader. I'm learning from every single buddy, and I'm just sharing the information, whatever I learned from someone, practice it, and then sharing it to the community. That's what I've been doing. And I'm handling, by the way, Stan Ventures. It's not like I own the company. I work for Stan Ventures. And same for Neil Patel Digital India as well. So I'm the VP of marketing for both the companies. Forget about the title. So I'm just trying to help my team to get and deliver best customer service and best deliveries when it comes to digital marketing. So enough said about myself. Let's directly jump into this. So since the topic in question itself is about ROI, so I'm going to look at what is the ROI for the session that you guys are going to get. So the first and foremost important thing will be looking at some of the important ROI metrics across the digital marketing channels, be it SEO, paid content. This is something which we are going to discuss. And then I'm going to reveal a few hacks or tools to unlock the ROI metrics. And then there's going to be 4 giveaways for you guys. And I might sound like a typical sales guy here, but these are all completely free. Don't worry about it. You don't have to pay anything for that. These are the values that you're going to get out of the session. The reason why I added the value is because end of the session, I'm not going to sell you anything, but the time that you're going to spend on this session is going to be worth close to $1,000, $500 or $2,000 overall. So here's something which happens whenever the agency or whenever a freelancer or anyone who is going to send a monthly report to the client. This is exactly what they expect the client should react to. Wow, you have done a lot of work for me, you have done a lot, you're showing me a lot of metrics, all the vanity metrics are there, and then I am very happy, I'm going to spend a lot of money on you, I'm going to hire you, keep on hiring you further. This is what the expectation for most of the people when they send out the end of the month reports. But what in reality happens is all the clients care about is, I pay you something, how much I am getting back. I don't care about all the other metrics that you point out to me saying I have improved this and that. But end of the day, how much of transactions or how much of sales has happened in my site? That is what they care about. All the other things will be just fillers in a template. But the main thing that they will focus on is what is the ROI. And that is exactly what we are trying to achieve in this session. Not in fully, but at least we'll try to achieve to a certain extent. Now, a typical answer when you're going to show that you have generated zero sales, then obviously, I mean, unless he's a really, really passionate or maybe a patient client, you may get fired for that. If the sales are going to be like $500 or $1,000, the reason I'm talking about sales here is that even though we are doing digital marketing, end of the day, it's an investment, and a person who is making the investment will be looking at the returns. So now if you're going to spend $1,000 and if you're going to say him, if the client is paying you $1,000 every month and there's literally zero sales coming out of the site, then there is very little chance that the client will continue with you. Same thing for $500, the client might feel like, okay, next month you might get fired. And then the $1,000, if you're reporting as a sale, the client might still say, I'm not satisfied with your service. Back in your mind, you might be thinking, this guy spent me $1,000, I gave back $1,000 sales, so we are even. So why is he even thinking about it? And then $2,000 sale, he'll still tell you he's at loss. $3,000 still at loss, but you might be still thinking, I've doubled the ROAS. 2x ROAS is there, 3x ROAS is there. Still, the client is greedy. And then the moment you're at $4,000, the client might say, how can we scale this up to 10x? So the clients are always looking at the next step. They won't be convinced easily. But we as digital marketers, we get convinced easily the moment we start seeing sales. The moment you see $1,000 is invested, $1,000 sales is there, we just jump in joy. Yes, whatever the client has invested, we have got back to him. But the reality, what is happening is that the reports that the agencies or whoever speaking to the CEOs or the CFOs of these companies, they're not speaking the language that the CEOs are expecting. They're not expecting you to look at the various different pages you have optimized, or looking at the various different backlinks you have built, or the various different ad copies or remarketing designs that you have made. All they care about is P&L. And that is exactly what I know. These are basic 101 for any businesses. The main problem is the digital marketers, sometimes they don't, or the agencies who hire people who are making these reports, they forget to understand that they're actually working on a business which actually has to report a P&L. Either that business owner has to take over that P&L, or he has an investor whom this business owner has to report to at the end of the month, because the investor is going to come back and ask him, I invested something, what is the return for this month? So looking at this basic thing, like the total revenue, this is something which usually the marketers report as the number of sales. So if $10,000 is the total revenue that has been generated to a particular client, then usually this is just a rough calculation. This might be different for different industries, but just to have a baseline, we are assuming that about 20% of that will go to the cost of producing the goods. It might be a software, it might be anything, a service or anything, but the cost for that will be assuming that it's around 20%. So the gross profit will come down to $8,000 now, and they will be definitely having a lot of expenses, the overheads and all the other things that will usually eat away to $5,000, nearly 50% of the sales. Now, if you notice, the client is now left with $3,000, and then the taxmen come, they take away $1,000. Now the client is left with $2,000. So even though as marketers or as a digital marketer, when you're reporting that you've got $10,000 sales for a set number of investment, if the investment is lesser than this net profit of $2,000, then the client will be fine. But if that investment is more than this net profit, then definitely the client will keep on having a kind of issues. So even though you say that you have done a brilliant job, you have sold a lot of items, still from the client's mind they will be not happy, or still they'll be looking at, or still they'll be exploring more options other than you, try to replace you, because they haven't got the return of ad spend. The true ROI is the profit that they are making out of the investment that is made. So if you are investing $100 and you are getting back $100, then it's as same as sitting in the bank. But if that $100, the money has to be put on work, and if that $100 doesn't generate them at least $120 or $140, then it's going to be wasted. That is exactly what the clients are looking for, and that is exactly the mentality that the digital marketers should be having while reporting to the clients. And even it's not just about reporting, it's also about formulating the strategies and ensuring that the right strategy is put into place that will actually impact the ROI for the client. So to summarize things, even though if you generate $2,000 sales, the client will stay still he's in loss. In $3,000 also they'll say, no, still, I'm at loss, I need more. So the reason is this, the P&L. Now, how do we calculate? What is the important metric then for the marketers? Is something called the lifetime value. Now, what happens if you look at Netflix or all the other product companies? If they're going to sell for a particular set money, for example, $100 subscription, then the cost for acquiring that customer might not be $100. It might be more than that. But the lifetime value of the customer is what is more important, because you get recurring payments out of them, and that is how you can calculate the true return of investment for whatever money that the client has invested. Now here is a quick a calculation of how that works. Now assuming that it's a B2C client whose product value or the total revenue that we have generated is $100, and as per the previous calculation, their bottom line will be about $20. That's the profit. Now, the same product, if it's a subscription product, for a year, the value for that subscription will be somewhere about $240 overall for the 12-month period. And assuming an average lifetime of the client is going to be about 2 years, then the lifetime value of that particular acquiring that particular customer will be about $480. Now, the safest cost per acquisition that you can keep for that will be, the industry average is 5% of the lifetime value. Now, if the average lifetime is 2 years, then the cost per acquisition can be somewhere about $24 per acquisition to acquire $100 retainer kind of client. So like this, if you calculate it for B2C, you can be 100% sure that the client will not leave you, because you're generating them enough cash flow, and the client will also be in the happy note. Same thing for B2B. So for B2B, the numbers might not be too high, but the quality of the lead or the quality of the deals will be high. So imagine if the B2B, if they are closing one website development project worth $1,000, and they have a profit of $200 coming out of it, and that website development project also has a maintenance and all the other things put together as $1,000 a month, then overall how we are calculating that is like the safest cost per acquisition will be coming somewhere about $240 for the same. So like that, the lifetime value calculation is very critical. Now, looking at the previous example, the B2B, to get a client word for $240, assuming that you're getting 1,000 visitors to the website and you're able to get 100 leads, 10% as a conversion rate, and that 100 leads translate to 10 prospects, and then out of that 10 prospects, one sale happens. So if that one sale value will be about $1,000. So if it is like this is an ideal situation. This is what ideally a CEO will be expecting, that I've spent $240, I've got back this money, and also I've got back my year's retainer. This is exactly what they'll be expecting back. Now, we'll deep dive into what are the metrics that you guys can, because only lifetime value will be difficult at the start, because especially for new businesses, because they also don't know what is the lifetime value of their customers. But there are few nuances which you can practice, which I'll be sharing you in a bit. So now this is how the problem statement is so far. Now, looking at the current situation, now what marketing has been happening, this is a research report by Deloitte that has been released recently, that suddenly marketing function has been given more importance by the companies since COVID-19, because now everybody is realizing if you can't sell, then you have to market and get your branding up and getting your brand discovered online more. So the importance of marketing function, this is the research that was done, I think about 270 or 300 CMOs worldwide. And this is what the answer they have received. So nearly 62%, they have seen an increase in the importance. So what it means is that there will be a lot of funds that the marketing team will be getting to increase their revenues further. There has been literally a very heavy rush on the social spending and all the other ad spending in some of the companies, because they want to get used to this particular situation on e-commerce and all the other industries. Now, the biggest marketing challenge in 2020 is that there is two things that I've found out. One is from Newscred. Their research report says that 82% of marketing leaders, they are not able to attribute the campaign effectively, and they are not able to attribute the revenue properly, so that they are not able to clearly mention about that ROI. What is the ROI for the investment the company or the particular client has made? And the same thing, even on LinkedIn, there was a research where 39% of B2B marketers said they are somewhat successful at tracking ROI, but still they haven't yet fully able to resolve the exact ROI metric. Now, this is not just about in 2020, this is the problem. This is late 1800s, a gentleman named John Wanamaker. So he also said the same thing. Half of the money that he spent on advertisement is wasted. The trouble is he don't know which half of the marketing budget is wasted. So this problem is there. It's been there for a long time. And first of all, I'm going to tell you that this problem will not be resolved in this session itself, or I don't have that kind of a thing right now, that magic bullet to tell you that this is the report that is going to completely give you the marketing ROI. You're going to win all the clients. That's definitely not a single report like that. But we can try to arrive at a report where it could at least help the clients clearly understand what is the ROI they are getting to some extent. Now, for that, why this kind of a tracking the ROI becomes a challenge in the industry is because there are a lot of channels that has been in existence, and there are also a lot of multiple customer touch points. Now, the same customer might look into the desktop, and then they might log into the mobile, use an app, they can check that out. And nowadays, people are having ad blockers. They are using incognito mode. They're using VPNs. So the tracking becomes a challenge when it comes to a precise tracking becomes a challenge. And it's incredibly difficult to pin down which content activity is directly attributed to closing a deal, because the simple thing is the customer would have discovered you on an organic search, and then he would have forgotten about you, and then after a retargeting ad, he might have seen your ad and he might have come to your website. Again, he might have had a difficulty in making a decision. He might be speaking to his friends or all the other things, and then maybe after 5 days or 6 days, he might be coming to your website and purchasing something. Maybe he could have directly bookmarked your site. He would directly come to the site and purchase. Now, with regards to this particular context, the reporting in the analytics will show that the customer has directly come and they have purchased something. But when you're looking at the past history, there might be, in case if the customer is using the same laptop, the same browser across the thing, then the tracking will still be proper. But the moment he's switching the devices, maybe he's using his wife laptop, or maybe he's using something else, a tab, and then he's coming here and he's not signed into those Chrome browser, then the tracking will be left off, and still it will be reporting as only a direct click if it's like a last click attribution. So these are some of the challenges which will be extremely difficult to fix right now. But there are certain things which we can try to give a proper kind of a ROI measurement, so that the clients will also stay happy. Now, why do we have to care about solving this problem? Is because without measuring your return of investment, essentially you are just marketing blind. And what really works is something which you will not be able to clearly identify. Maybe your content marketing, maybe if you think the remarketing has got you more conversions, and then if you are focusing more on that, but actually the client would have found you on an organic growth. And if you're not focusing on organic SEO, then you might end up disappointed because you're still not getting the new users back to your site. So what really works is something which is critical, which a particular source or medium has resulted in a conversion, is very critical, and that measurement becomes important. And then also the third most important thing is where we are wasting the budget, where the budget is spent wisely. Now, there is one thing where when we spend, there is one example is that when we spend for a particular campaign, we spent more on Google ads, we spent less on Bing ads, because obviously everybody knows Google is the dominant search engine. But what we saw in that campaign was Bing ads was getting us, actually for it is getting us 3x ROAS compared to Google ads. Now that is something which is quite new. And then when we started investing more on Bing ads, then we realized that we are not able to scale up the campaign. And then when we check the overall attribution model, looks like apparently people who came in from Google ads, they have been continuously, even they're using some other search engine as well, and then they have come to our website and converted. So these people are already aware of the brand, so now they are making a decision to buy something from you. So these are various things where we should be really going deeply and analyzing it, so that it's easier for us to even spend budget, into the right channel. And then the fourth point is the improvement in the standpoint, like what exactly, which channel is working or not, which budget is getting wisely spent, and then where should we scale it up from here. Because the moment you are going to show a good traction to your clients, the next immediate question the clients usually, if they are having a growth mindset, nobody will be content with whatever ROAS that they've got if they are in the profit zone. Definitely people, the growing businesses will be looking at scaling the business up. At that time, the problem will come where which channel they can use it for scaling up that kind of a random 10x or a 20x kind of a growth. Now for all those things, these kind of measurements becomes very, very important. And obviously is a quick summary that most of the digital marketing agencies, they offer SEO, paid advertising, content marketing, which includes social, blog creation, PR, and a lot of things. Now, within these major channels, in this presentation, I'm more going to focus on SEO because the other channels, it follows the same methodology, just that the channel is different. But the way that the tracking can be done could be done in a similar way. Now, before we jump on to the actual, the conversions and all the things, let's define what is a conversion when it comes to various websites. When it comes to an e-commerce store, a conversion, a lead might not be an ideal conversion. It's an online sale which will be the conversion for them. Probably the second one would be how many users are adding my products to their cart. And this, provided they are collecting the email address before they add the products or those things, then if a user adds a product to the cart and bounce out, then still it's a waste. But still, at least to some extent, the client can be happy that, okay, people have looked into my product, they have shown a buying intent. All I have to do now is retarget them so that I can get them back into my site to convert. So that could be still a valuable metric. And then the third one would be how many users are adding my products to the wish list, because you have thousands of products on your e-commerce store, nobody is adding your products to wish list or nobody is purchasing. Then there is a big challenge. First of all, if sales is not happening, then we have to look at the second step is people are really adding the products to the carts. If people are not adding products to the cart, then the third thing we might have to check is, are they at least adding them to the wish list or showing some kind of intent. If all these three are not there, then definitely you are in big trouble, or maybe the site is not targeting the right audience, or maybe it's completely different. So these are the top three. And then obviously email signups, social media shares, and then live chat inquiries. Live chat inquiries, it's actually, it could also be a good one, because people might be inquiring about, especially in this COVID situation, they might be inquiring about, can you ship me to this place in this pin code. There are a lot of questions that people might be asking before they are making a purchase decision. So all these points, we can still consider them as a conversion for a B2C, but predominantly the ultimate one will be the online sale. And then for B2B, the game plan is completely different. They are completely measured in terms of leads, because for B2B, mostly there will be a sales touch point that will be required. Unless if it is like a B2B SaaS tool or those kind of things, it can be still led by marketing and directly to a sale. But traditionally, most of the B2B services companies, they would need a sales touch point. So in that case, a lead form fill would be the ideal one, requesting a quote or service. That is what the clients will be expecting for the money they are investing. And then obviously the live chat inquiries, because people who, in B2B, they might be having more questions. Where are you guys based? How many employees you have? Even though all these information will be there on the website, people are lazy. They don't want to read every single thing on your website. If there is a live chat, then people simply just have a chat with the agent, get their doubts resolved. So live chat is definitely the number two. And then the lead magnets, whatever the resource downloads that you guys have, on the website, the ebooks, the webinars, or all these things, all are the lead collection things. These can also be termed as a conversion. And then click to call is something which a lot of websites these days, they integrate with Twilio, and then they enable a direct click to call functionality where people click on it, they directly make a call if they are on a mobile phone. So there are a lot of such options available. Those things should be tracked, and those should be indirectly, they can also contribute to the ROI. And then last but important point is the direct meeting schedules that people use Calendly and all the other online calendars. They directly book the appointment with the sales team. So these are few examples of what we can define them as conversion for a website. Now, keeping these things into perspective, we are going to approach what are the metrics that people can cover when it comes to the monthly reporting. So when it comes to SEO, the main thing that any SEO should be looking at is, before looking at the analytics data, look at the search console data, because that is where you get majority of the Google related traffic. But again, as an SEO, you might not have to completely rely on search console data, because that only tracks the Google related data, but you might be getting even references from Bing or DuckDuckGo or even other traffic channels. But 90% to 95% you will be getting mostly from Google. So it's very important to ensure that the organic clicks that is received, that is being properly reported. And the second most important point would be how many goal completions have been achieved through this organic traffic. Now again, this goal completion, circling back to the conversions, these can be any one of these could be an online sale, or it might be a lead magnet, or it could be a click to call. So all those things should be properly tagged on the report. And the third most critical thing will be target keywords and their ranking, because that is what SEOs strive for. They want to get their keywords ranked at the top, and they want to get more traffic. And the fourth point, which is the main killer that happens in Google Analytics, especially after 2011, when they stopped showing the not provided data. When they stopped provided the search terms, the organic search terms on analytics. Now, this is something which is a hot one, which is something a lot of people miss out, is reporting on which keyword is bringing you the conversions. Now, there are certain tools that is available which you can directly use, and also there are few hacks that's available in analytics. To some extent you can gather some data, but this is something which is a killer deal. When you're reporting that, it directly impacts the SEO ROI, because that is what you're focusing on, those keywords. If you're ranking for a keyword and that keyword has got you the conversion, then that's it, that's your main ROI. Now that is quite critical. And the fifth point is obviously, like we mentioned in the starting of the presentation, the lifetime value of the customers. This is something which you have to work closely with the client to understand about it, and then calculate things based on that. And obviously the regular ones like number of backlinks and how much of referral traffic you are getting from the backlinks. Now, if a report doesn't have these things, then the client will obviously have a lot of other questions. Forget about all the work you have done. There will be few clients who might be SEO savvy, or there might be few clients of yours who might be the digital marketing managers or the SEO managers working in direct client basis, and they are the ones who are the single point of contact. But end of the day, even they will be reporting to a CEO or somebody else. When they are presenting the report to their CMO, obviously they will be questioned like, all these things are fine, but what about the bottom line? Is this all the things that your SEO team has done, the outsourced agency has done, have they impacted our bottom line or not? So again, if that person will be circling back to you asking for the same, or they might be trying hard to create that themselves. Now imagine a situation where you are directly giving it to that person. Now that is a wow service. Now the client directly, whoever the single point of contact, he knows exactly what are the keywords that you're focused on, which keywords have helped you get the traffic, and which keywords help you get the conversions, and even those conversions, what is the impact on the lifetime value. Now all these things will make a customer happy, and they will be content about the investment they are making on SEO, because you're reporting back. Obviously the report should be a good report. If you're going to report negative, then it is a sign of trouble. But if you know what you're going to report on a month end, right, at that time you should be clear about, these are the things I have to report. So if that is the case, these are the things I should work on. Only then I can ensure that the impact is there, then I can report those things. If you are simply sitting and building links, and then end of the month you have only few metrics to report to the client back to, But if you're having a full-fledged focus on the client, I have to affect his bottom line, then I have to focus on these things. Instead of focusing on top of the funnel keywords, I'm focusing on the bottom of the funnel keywords that could get the client more revenue. So instead of talking about I have generated you 1 lakh traffic, even if you have generated 500 traffic, still if the traffic is giving the affecting the bottom line of the client in a positive way, then the client will be happy. There will be very, very rare cases where the client will say, no, I need more traffic because I haven't got sales. So that is the impact. Unless or until they are a publisher, of course, the publishers will be needing more traffic, only then they get more ad revenue. But when it comes to the traditional, the B2C e-commerce stores or the B2B services people, definitely they will be expecting more leads or more sales. That's it. If you're able to impact on that, then definitely people will be happy. For that, ensure that these metrics are reported in, and based on these metrics, you are focusing on the monthly activities, ensuring that you are impacting these things. Now, the same thing for paid campaigns. Obviously, the client will not be looking at what is the ad group. Are you using broad modifiers, or are you using dynamic ad insertion? That and all doesn't matter to the client. For them, it will be how much money did you spend for this time period, how many new customers have we acquired, and what is the value of that customer. And obviously, to some people, they might still be interested on what keywords are we focusing on, because they are in the industry, they are the on the ground, so they know things much better than the guy who's sitting in a room running an ad campaign. So they might have more information about, these materials are getting a lot of inquiries, or these are the challenges that the manufacturing units are facing, so we can target these kind of keywords or these kind of audience interests. So all these things the clients can feed back to you, and then you can focus or fine tune your campaigns accordingly. And then obviously the client retention, the customer retention rate, and again the lifetime value of the customers. So if your report doesn't contain at least out of the 6, if it doesn't contain at least the 4 out of it, then that report will not be making sense for the client, because you are just reporting a vanity metric which the client doesn't account for. So forget about fancy infographic kind of templates and all the other things. If you're simply in plain text, if you're reporting all these things, 90% of our clients will be happy. And the third point is that we covered SEO, and then we have covered about paid. The third thing is about the content. Now, when it comes to content, usually the content teams, they churn out the content and that's about it. They forget about what happened next. But content is something which is the digital currency these days. Who puts the best content out there gets the traffic, gets the sales. Now, for that, if the content team or the content writer is not aware of these metrics, then again he will also be not be able to get enough insights. Now, for example, how much traffic did that blog post generate from search engines or through referrals? Now, why I've highlighted here referrals is because through search engine, it's quite a direct approach. Any content if you put, the search engines will be able to take it into consideration. They will be able to rank it to something else. But it takes a really good content for people to share it in their blog or refer it in their blog. For example, you take example of Neil Patel's blogs, you take example of Brian Dean's blogs, Rand Fishkin. All these people's blogs are being referred by hundreds and thousands of people in their own websites. It's not because it's not because some content is poor quality or something. Only if the content is really good, people will be sharing it. So the referrals is something which you have to pay attention. And if somebody has mentioned your blog, it just takes about a couple of minutes to send a thank you mail to them, so that the relationship is being maintained. And then obviously the time spent by users and the bounce rate. Now here is something which people, they think in a wrong way, that if the bounce rate is high, then I think it's a bad thing. Now the thing is, if the time spent on site is 10 minutes, and then if the bounce rate is 90%, still it's perfectly fine, because the person would have read your blog or read your content. They are fine. You have solved the intent of the user and you have answered that query. So don't blindly go against go after, okay, my blog has having highest bounce rate. If the bounce rate is high, immediately check the time spent on site. If the time spent on site is more, highlight that to the clients. And then the third important point is how many conversions you are getting out of that. Now in your blog, it's not just about adding a content and then trying to rank. Obviously, if someone is investing on content, they will be expecting some returns as well. So how much CTAs, what are the benefits or what are the sales happening because of that content? For example, top 10 products in your store. You're just writing a blog and maybe it is about hair loss and you're writing a blog about it, and then that blog is getting a lot of traction, and then you're getting more conversion out of it. Now that is something which is an ROI that the clients will be expecting. If you're going to report back telling the clients that I've done 5 blog posts this month, that's it. Or maybe you're reporting back saying we've got 10% improvement in traffic to the site because of blogs. End of the day, so the next question the client will ask is, so what is next? What did I get out of it? Has it impacted my bottom line in any way or the other? If it's not impacting his bottom line, at least something else, maybe it has increased. Circling back to the conversion metrics here, at least has it increased his lead magnet signups, or did it increase the click to call, or people are getting more live chat inquiries from these kind of blogs? So that is where the client's measurement should be made on each and everything that you deliver to a client on a monthly basis. Now like this, if you're doing it, and then the value of the page. Now this is something which I'll be covering in depth on the coming slides. Now the value of the page that you have created, how many people have engaged on the page, what is the customer retention rate through the blogs, because blogs is something which is a trust building exercise. The more blogs people read on your website, then they will know more about your brand, and they are more viable to purchase something from you because they already know that you're sharing some lot of information. And again, the common normal or the common denominator for all these 3 reports is the lifetime value. Now reporting all these things will ensure that the client knows exactly what is the effort that has been put up and what is the returns that they are getting out of it. And this is one example. This is a one of the best quote that I've got from Bruce Clay. Is that if you're writing a content on your blog and you're just trying to sell it by approaching every single buddy on the planet, asking them to link out to, that means you're not confident on your content. So what he says is you require content that's attractive to the audience, that's linking back to you. Now this requires a coolness factor. Now if the content is not good, or if it's not cool enough, people might not be linking out to. If you just read Neil Patel's blogs or Brian Dean's blogs, the first 5 minutes you're reading a blog, you'll get a cool factor on that. Now that is what attracts a lot of links. That's where people get attracted to. Most of the people, they bookmark it for reading later, and then they'll download it if there is a download PDF option available. So those are the things which, as a user like that, are we able to create a content. So that uniqueness of the content and how you put up your point in front of others, all these things add up to the coolness factor, and thereby people will make a decision to link to the site without even you asking for it. Now this is what I call the digital currency that you are getting out of it. 2 things: one is the content, second thing is the link you're getting it. These things, if your content has been put up last month about, probably about COVID related some information, and nearly 1,000 people have shared it, and then there are inquiries coming to the company. Now that is what the ROI for the company. It's not about pitching like I've got 1,000 links, but it's about how many people have got back to it, and how much of conversions it has affected. Now if that is being showcased to the clients, again coming back to the topic, they will be happy. So far what we have covered is the importance of the ROI metrics, and also what are the important ROI metrics that you can cover when it comes to SEO, paid, and content. Now, what we do move forward is that we'll be looking at some of the hacks or tools to unlock these ROI metrics. Now, the first thing that we would recommend is that I would recommend personally is that one of the tool called Not Provided, where what this tool does is, this is something which one of my friend referred in the, I think about a couple of years back. I initially thought this is not making sense, but when I deep dived on it, one cool feature that this thing has is that it exactly tells you which keyword is converting on your website. That is from organic traffic. Now this is something which is available for right out of the box on analytics when it comes to paid campaigns and all the other things. But when it comes to organic traffic, the Not Provided is the single most thing, and people have a lot of hacks around it. So few hacks like filtering out the queries on Search Console, and then looking at what are the landing pages for those queries, and then assuming that these are the queries that has resulted in a traffic. But this tool, what it does is it gives you exactly what keyword as organic keyword has brought in the traffic and what has helped you in the conversions, and it shows you all the goals that has been resulted in it. So that means any single conversion metric that we are having here, which keyword has brought in, that is something which we can get it. So this is something which you guys can check that out. And the second important thing, this is a method where adding the annotations. This is such a simple thing on analytics, but I've seen a lot of agencies, whenever we get clients, when we check the analytics, a lot of the time we see that annotations are missing completely. Now what this does is, we have no clue what the previous agency or previous person who's handled the SEO has done on the particular website. Suddenly there will be a spike, suddenly there won't be spike, there will be like a complete traffic drop. So a lot of things will be there, and at that time what the SEO team has done, or what has been done that resulted in a change, is something which will be getting missed out. Now these are some, probably this will take about 30 seconds or 40 seconds, whatever. For example, if you're releasing out a new blog post, 5,000 word or 6,000 word strong blog post about a topic on your site, add an annotation to it. And if you're making a major change on the website, this happens especially when people are adding some canonical tags, or if they're doing redirections, or if there is a site migration that happens, or they are switching to a new SSL, or there's a lot of things that they can do on the site. And or maybe they are disavowing the, that is the common thing that you find in the industry. People look at a lot of spammy links, then they submit a disavow file, and then they forget to log it in the annotations. Now what happens is, usually when such a high impact SEO work is done, it might result in a positive traffic increase, or it might result in a negative decrease in traffic as well. But it's very important to log all these details, and that is where annotations are very, very crucial. So if your team is not doing it in your agency, this is 100%, it's highly recommended, this has to be done. So the team, all they have to do is just click on the arrow below any graph in your analytics. You will find that option. You can simply go and add an annotation like what has been done on the particular day, or what high impact item has been done. You can even add things like algorithm update has been released, or you can add things like the server has been down today. So because all these things will be like a record, and these things, the beautiful thing about this is even the timestamp will be added, so that you know exactly for a month, if imagine if 2 days the tracking code has not been active on the site, and that 2 days drop in traffic in terms of reporting would actually impact your month on month growth perspective, because the client will be only looking at analytics data, but they don't know that, for example, if we notice here from April 12th to April 20th, nearly the site traffic is completely zero. And then when the website realized that the code is not added, then when they added the code, now it again the tracking started tracking back. Now when we add all these things, it becomes clear that okay, something has been done on the day, that's the reason why the traffic is down. So this helps you in normalizing the traffic and ensuring that you're keeping track of it. And the third most important ROI metric, or the important uh, tip that you can follow, is to look at the reverse goal parts and look at what are all the pages, or what are all the pages that is driving such conversions. These are your high value pages, and if these pages are being focused more on the campaigns, then the clients can obviously expect more ROI. Because compared to, imagine if a lot of people are getting converted from one blog post, then you can hyper focus your attention on that same blog post to further enhance it. Or you might be looking at creating a something similar, or maybe a different content which is attracting the similar audience. So like that, getting that information like which page is helping me with more conversions, that is something which is very, very helpful. So you can get it directly from this reverse goal path report. And the fourth tip is the method. So the fourth tip is the search tracking, the site searches. Now one thing that happens is, especially this happens in e-commerce stores, where if you're having a multi-niche e-commerce store where you have a lot of products, people tend to search for it on your store. And if you're not tracking those keywords, now forget about unlocking the keywords, or looking at search console, looking at the Google traffic and all the other things, forget about everything. The only thing that you own is your website. And in your website, if people are using your own search engine to search for a product, that means first of all they trust your brand, and they are trying to see, does this brand offer me this product? Now that kind of insights, when you're circling back to the client, and obviously if the client doesn't have the product, it would be a great addition or great insight to the client that these are all the things people are searching for, but you don't have that products on the site. Maybe people are interested or something is happening in the industry, so people are showing interest on that. Why don't you release those products? So it also gives a good impact back to the client, because obviously if the client is going to have the product, it's going to again impact on his ROI. So this is one important thing which you can use as well. Now I know this is a basic one, but I've seen a lot of people turn this off. They don't track their site search query parameters. So this is something which is quite important. And the fifth tip, and this is something which actually I have a good case study on this one. People overlook on the demographics data. They simply look at all the other metrics, but this is a very, very important metric that people should pay attention to, which is the gender or what is the age group that is converting well on your site. Now, based on that, so one example that I can give you at Stan Ventures is that we were working for a nutrition site where I think it was a product which helps people relieve pain. And now for that product, we were focusing on young audience, athletes, and all those kind of people. But when we looked into this demographics data, it was clearly showing us that nearly 65 plus age group women are purchasing more of that product. Now that actually raised a bell, because that ringed a bell, because we were completely on the assumption that this product, even the client was on the assumption that this product is more suitable for athletes. But people who are actually purchasing from his website are actually 65 plus age people, because there is one blog post which was written by somebody else where they have written a detailed thing about that they have used the product and it has relieved the pain. Now obviously the age old people with arthritis and all those bone joint pains, they started liking the product and they started purchasing it. Now once this data has been shared with the clients, then immediately what the client did was they came up with a solid piece, a solid blog post about how to choose a product or how to relieve the pain for especially targeting the old people. So I don't exactly remember the topic, but it was targeted on old people, especially women, and what are the common pains and what are all the products available in the store. Now after that blog post was launched, you won't believe that nearly whatever revenue that the website was getting, triple the time that single blog post has contributed to the revenue. That was close to I think $100K or something during the I think 2 years back during the holiday season sale. That was like a top selling thing for them. Now if, and as an agency, if we have not reported this, we would have been still going after athletes, and then we are going after the age group of 25 to 34 and all the other things. Now this is where these kind of things play an important role. And then the sixth one, this is the one which I was referring to before about the page value. Now when it comes to page value, the one important thing is that we need to assign a particular goal, a particular value. For example, if there are 100 white paper downloads happening in your website, this is for a B2B, I want to focus on, because for B2C it's pretty easy, because the moment you have an enhanced e-commerce tracking on your e-commerce store, then Google Analytics itself will do all the things in an automated way. But for a B2B site, having a white paper or having a white paper or maybe some other lead magnet, if they are downloading it, if you get an data from the particular client saying like, for example, how many, if 100 people download your white paper, how many leads that you get or how many sales you generate by in a usual way. And if the client responds back saying that I get about one sale or two sale every month, and if they tell you about the value, then you can divide that and you can add it as a value for that particular product or particular download file. And based on that, each and every page that is referring to the page can have a page value associated to it. So in this example, this is the example which was explained by Google itself. Now for example, if you notice here, if there is a session 1 where a user goes to page A and then goes to page B, C, D, and then he purchases something for $100. Now, what happens is this particular page value, we can assign this as $10, so that the client, so that when you're looking at the overall number of pages that is giving you the giving you the revenue, this page will stand out. Now similarly, if you look at the session 2, if again a user comes to A, B, and then moves to third page and then goes back to the second page which talks about that content more, and then they download something. Now in this case, the page B will get more value because the in his user journey, the client has actually accessed the page twice, so that page will have more page value. Now like this, if each and every single page, don't bother about creating thousands of pages on your website. Even if you have 40 or 50 pages, if each and every page is valuable and properly the goal value is added, then obviously the page value metric will be shown on analytics, and that page value metric will form, again it will have an impact on the ROI. Because if you are going to spend money on, for example, if you're spending $100 for creating a blog post and you're adding on the site, if that blog post has contributed to about 20 downloads of a particular white paper, and if a cost per white paper you're assigning it as probably about $10, then what you're doing is you're getting $200 out of the $100 investment that you have made for creating the content of the blog. So that is where the page value metric is very critical. Most of the people, when you check your page value, it will show as 0 because you might not have properly implemented the goal values. So it's quite very important to implement the goal value on your website, so that based on that goal value, the page values get calculated and you can easily report which pages are getting more traction and how better you can optimize it further, right? And the next tip that I have for you guys is about excluding the office IP address. Now, this is again, it might look like a common thing, but trust me, guys, this actually screws up the complete conversion rate data. Because when we are accessing a website from the office, people imagine every day at least twice or thrice an SEO person will be accessing a website, trying to check the reports or trying to check the pages. And imagine if they are accessing 50 pages, 100 pages, they're just simply moving across. It's going to screw up the bounce rate, it's going to screw up the conversion rate, it's going to screw up everything. Now that is where it's very important to create a view in Google Analytics where it excludes your office traffic. Now obviously nowadays people are working from home, so this tactic might not be 100% accurate, but however possible, try to get the IP addresses, because people are having an always on broadband line these days. So you can collect the email addresses that people use, so you can ask your IT team to get the range of those IP addresses and you can exclude them, so that the data doesn't get mismatched, so and you're able to report a proper data to their clients. And the next tip that I have for you guys is on the using the UTM codes. Now, this is again another basic thing, but people miss out on this in a bigger context. For example, any URL that the website is being shared, including the QR codes, including the emails that you send, or maybe even the visiting cards that you distribute on an event. So everywhere people are using QR codes these days, but ensure that these QR codes, they are properly tagged. The URLs are properly tagged with the respective campaign source, the medium, what are the terms that we're using. So this way it will be easier for you to track these things on analytics. So we have done this effectively for Stan Ventures, where we participated in one event in Portugal, and we distributed our cards to them. And out of that, nearly 9 people, or maybe I think out of 20 people, 9 people have scanned the QR code, they have visited the website, and they have spent some time on our website. Now, on a traditional note, if you are simply handing over the visiting cards, we don't know from where these people have come in, because the moment they are going to type that out directly on the browser, it's going to show you as a direct traffic. So if you're having each and every campaign, this is as simple as the QR code I'm talking about, but the same if you're able to use it effectively for your Facebook post, for a white paper, or whatever blog that you're doing, or you're contributing a blog to some other website, or even you're doing a distribution of your content to anywhere else, wherever you're linking your page, ensure that you're adding the right parameters, because Google Analytics is not capable of 100% tracking all the referral names. Sometimes they make a miss. So ensure that you're having the proper campaign URL parameters added as well. And the next step will be it's a dashboard which is this is one of the best dashboards which I have seen. It was launched by Databox. So I have linked to the dashboard, so you guys can check that out when you have access to this recording. Now, this dashboard will give a clear perspective on what are the right metrics that the clients will be needing. Now, this is just one. There is another one. The same Databox has released one more version of it, which completely covers about the entire e-commerce funnel. So this dashboard will be very, very helpful for the clients, because in one dashboard they can check all the sources. And this is, by the way, I think it's a Data Studio dashboard. So you can actually,
Senthil, just a question. Are
Yes.
these dashboards free?
sorry.
Are these dashboard free?
Yes, these dashboards are free dashboards. Yeah.
Okay. And can we just speed it up a bit because it's already 6. I was not
Okay.
able to
Yeah.
stop you because we were getting so many good insights, and I was just watching the tips, tip 1, tip 2, tips 3, and then I just realized we have already crossed the time.
Oh, okay. Sure. No problem. So we will be linking out to this. These things are free. So you guys can check this out. So what I'll do is I'll quickly move over to the, yes, this is one more tip. I'll take maximum 5 minutes. Is that fine?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. I'll wind this up in 5 minutes. But yes, so the next step will be obviously unlocking the ROI metrics. Now, is that the bounce rate? Now, what happens is people, when they are checking the bounce rate, they usually try to sort the data. When you're sorting the data, it will show you all the 100% bounce rate, and those will be having 1-page view or 5-page views. These will not make any sense. So for that, you have to use a sort called a weighted average sorting. So that option is available in analytics. So if you're sorting it by weighted average, then what it will do is, what is the most valuable page and what is the bounce rate? Based on that, what is the highest bounce rate in your page? That will be listed out, so you can make a well-informed decision on that front. So this is one tip. And the last tip is, when you're reporting your organic traffic, the conversions especially, ensure that you are 100% utilizing this metric that is given by Google, where you can find multi-channel funnels inside it, the model comparison tool. Get into it, add all the 3 things called last interaction attribution, first click attribution, linear attribution, and show them how much of an impact that an organic traffic or your paid traffic or whatever the reference, the source that you're using, show them these are the things that at least to some level you can show that this has contributed to that. Because the example which I told you upfront, right, where it will be difficult to track each and every source, and then if you're measuring that the last click wherever the person has come from, and then if they have purchased something, then it's definitely not the right way of measuring things. That is like the whole effort that you have put on organic, the blogs, people have learned it, they have known about your brand, and then when they are purchasing by seeing an ad, still everything should have an equal impact. So that way, this report is also very, very helpful to your clients, because they know this is the true ROI that they are getting out of the investment they are making on organic and all the other channels. Now, I know I have rushed few of the things that I can talk about this whole day, since we have a very limited session timing. So I think 2 things we have covered majorly. I'll quickly summarize on the giveaway part. So the giveaway that we have today is that I have created a monthly reporting template. This is an upgraded version. 2 years back, I created this and gave it to the LinkedIn community. This time I have refreshed it for the latest things that has been added. So this report we'll be linking out, so you guys can check that out in the show notes. And you can also email me, you can reach me out on LinkedIn for that. The second giveaway is that I'll be able to give you guys a free 30-minute live video consultation on setting up all these things. As an agency, if you're facing any challenge, feel free to reach out to me. We are all in the same boat. We are also from an agency, but still it's fine. It's not like competing among ourselves. These are like very critical for the survival of the digital marketing community. So I'll be able to give you a free 30 minutes live video on how to get this kind of reportings, or if you have any doubts on that, I'll be able to help you out with that. And then the third thing is that from Stan Ventures, they're giving $100 credit to everybody who is participating in this show. So you guys can claim it by simply emailing to krish.r@stanventures.com. So worth of $100 worth of the SEO service, you can get it for absolutely free from Stan Ventures team. It could be links or content or Google Analytics audit or whatever that you need. You can get it from there. And the fourth giveaway is obviously given by our friends from ClientJoy, where You get premium access and also access to a recording, and also you get some. These offers are really cool. There are a lot of great offers that they have added here in one go. So you guys can get full access to all these things by adding this code Sendil100 on this link. Just go to summit.clientjoy.io and try to grab that up. So hopefully I've contributed with the limited time whatever is possible. Hopefully you guys got the value out of this session. Feel free to ask me your questions. I'm here to answer some of your questions.
Okay. So thanks a lot, Senthil. I think there aren't any questions. Maybe people were so engrossed in the whole thing that you were saying that they do not have anything currently. But I think people can reach out to you on your email ID that you have given, and also on the LinkedIn profile. If anybody wants to reach out to Senthil, his LinkedIn profile is also connected on summit.clientjoy.io. You guys can go and connect with him there. And I think he is giving that 30 minutes call. If you are somebody who needs that, please do that. I am surely going to do that for sure after this. Thanks a lot, Senthil, for joining us today.